In this video, I will show you every single step to go from raw transcripts like this to having clearly developed themes using NVivo 15. The only way to go from raw transcripts to having clearly developed themes is by conducting thematic analysis. In this video, I will therefore teach you how to conduct thematic analysis using NVivo 15. My name is Bernard Mugo. I like to refer to myself simply as an academic. In the past 3 years, I've helped more than 200 PhD students analyze qualitative data and finally complete their theses or dissertations. In the course of helping such a large number of students, I've gained invaluable experience in the best practices you can use to perform qualitative analysis of your interviews and be able to retrieve quality findings. This is NVivo 15. This is how it opens, just like the previous version, NVivo 14. So when we open NVivo 15, we have to click here on a new project. Call this theme project 2. I want to save this here, theme project 2. Then click on next. We don't want to autosave our project because NVivo might crash. So you want to display save reminders every 15 minutes just to have some leverage or just to ensure that we protect our work. When you open NVivo, you see 3 main menus: the blue menu on the left, the dark gray menu at the top, and the light gray menu at the middle. So in the blue menu, we have import, where we have data, and under data we have files. We can import files, we can classify the files, and we can put external documents to attach to the files. So that's the data section. We also have another section called organize, where we have coding. Under coding, we have codes, sentiment, relationships, and relationship types. We have cases, we have notes, we have sets, queries, visualization, and reports. Now, as a beginner, we are going to use the files and the code section. Those are the 2 main sections. Then, still in NVivo, we have file, which is this section. Under this section, we have file, home, import, create, explore, share, modules. And then we have clipboard, which is on the dark gray menu. We have that. And on the clipboard, we have clipboard, item, organize. This is a secondary menu: query, visualize code, autocode, range code, classification, file classification, workspace, and AI assistant. So the main difference between NVivo 14 and NVivo 15, which was launched in August of 2024, is that NVivo 15 has this AI assistant. I'm going to do a video where I use this and I do manual coding and compare the quality. And we are going to have a verdict on whether we can use AI in doing thematic analysis. Just for a spoiler, the answer is no. AI is very primitive and there are so many ethical issues. But that's not the video today. Today we are about getting themes using NVivo 15. Now, let me go and start by importing our transcripts into NVivo. So these are the 2 transcripts. And the study that I want, the example study that I want to use for this tutorial is challenges teachers experience when teaching in a community college and teaching strategies they adopt. So challenges teachers experience when teaching in a community college and teaching strategies they adopt is the study topic. And I want to have 2 transcripts. There are 2 ways of importing transcripts into NVivo. First, I close this. Then I click on the file section. I can go to import and then click on files. Then I can go to transcripts. I want to import lecturer 2 first. So I import. And then let's go and click OK. That's how I import a transcript into NVivo. Another way is to go to the transcripts in their folder and drag and drop that transcript. Then click OK. So we have imported 2 transcripts that we are going to code, and then we are going to have themes for these 2 transcripts. Now, before I begin coding, I want to define code, or what's a code in qualitative data analysis. A code is a label or a statement to any information that's important to our research objectives or research questions. So a code is a tag to information that we believe is important to our research questions or objectives in qualitative data analysis. Let me interrupt this video for a minute and pose this question to you. Are you overwhelmed by qualitative data analysis? I've got you covered with 2 specialized services tailored just for you. But before I tell you of my services, let me start by informing you that I have an average 5-star rating from previous clients that I've worked with both in the done for you and the consulting service. Now,
Here are the two services I provide to help you in analyzing your qualitative data. Number one, the done for you qualitative data analysis service. In this service, I handle the heavy lifting so you can focus on the bigger picture. My service includes meticulous manual coding, where I code every word carefully for meaningful insights, theme development, where I identify patterns that matter the most, data visualization, where I produce stunning visuals that tell your data story, writing the findings report, where I produce content that's ready to use for the fourth chapter of your thesis or dissertation, which is the findings section. And I also provide a walkthrough video recording, which is a step-by-step explanation of how I analyzed your data using NVivo. The second service that I offer is the one-on-one NVivo consulting. In this service, we hop on a video call via Microsoft Teams or Zoom, and in just a few hours, I'll help you become a pro with NVivo. So whether you are a beginner or looking to refine your qualitative data analysis skills, I'm here to guide you every step of the way. So don't wait, contact me today. My details in the description and in the pinned comment.
Let me give you an example of a code. Here we have an example of codes that were developed by a certain researcher. Actually, I extracted this from Johnny Saldana book called, I think, Introduction to Coding. So this is a paragraph that we are going to read together and see examples of codes. Now let me read the whole paragraph first, and then let's look at some codes. My son, Barry, went through a really tough time. Probably started at the end of 5th grade and went into 6th grade. When he was growing up young in school, he was a people pleaser and his teachers loved him to death. Two boys in particular that he chose to try to emulate were not very good for him. They were very critical of him. They put him down all the time, and he kind of just took that and really kind of internalized it, I think, for a long time. In that time period, in the 5th grade, early 6th grade, they really just kind of shunned him altogether, and so his network, as you knew it, was gone. So that's a whole paragraph with 5 statements. Let's see how the author codes this. Let's read the first sentence. My son, Barry, went through a really tough time probably started at the end of 5th grade and went into 6th grade. So that statement is going through a tough time. This person coded it as middle school hell. You can see it's an interpretive statement with 3 words. Middle school hell, that's a code. Then let's look at the second statement. When he was growing up young in school, he was a people pleaser and his teachers loved him to death. So he was a teacher's pet. That's another code. Then let's look at a third code. 2 boys in particular that he chose to try to emulate were not very good for him. So that's bad influences. Again, and then they were very critical of him. So bad influences is a code. They put him down all the time, and he kind of just took that and really kind of internalized it, think for a long time. That's being a teen, or it's called teen angst. Not being settled as a teenager or suffering as a teenager. So teen angst. And then in that time period, in the 5th grade, early 6th grade, they really just kind of shunned him altogether, and so his network, as he knew it, it was gone. The lost boy. So he was kind of lost because of losing his friends. So that's an example of 5 codes in a very short paragraph. So you have an idea of what a code is. Now let's get back to NVivo 15 and let's begin some coding. I'm going to manage my codes using color codes from NVivo, and we are going to put the codes here. So I go to the code section, I right click, create a new folder, call it A, initial coding. That's the initial coding folder, and we are going to put all the initial codes here. Let's close the message and let's go and have some initial codes. I'm going to have some color codes, and I'm going to show you how I use color codes. I use color codes to mark the original questions where the codes came from. What do I mean by this? If I go to lecturer 2, for instance, open in Word document, come here and color code that red. The second question, I color code it as yellow, or this green, that green. The other one, I color code it as blue. The other one, I color code it as, remember, I use the same color codes for both transcripts. The other one was blue, then this dark blue, and the other one I color code it as not blue but purple. So you see the color codes for the questions. I make sure I do this, or I use these color codes to mark the codes that I'm going to get from NVivo. Let's do that. Let's go and read the whole paragraph. Let's come back and do open coding. Remember, a code is a label or an interpretive statement to any information that's important to our research questions. So let's go. In your opinion, what kind of teaching and learning challenges do students in your classes experience? The facilities are terrible at the institution. You have very old and dilapidated toilet facilities for students which never get upgraded. I think the way these toilets look is the way they were when this college and school was many years ago. I also don't think there is enough toilet facilities for students, as there is only 2 urinals that work the last time I went into the students' toilets. Also, I think we have a huge problem with classroom facilities. It seems all classrooms get given to the occupational units or get rented out to other private institutions to host their training programs at the institution. Not minding that the lecturers at the campus are struggling with space as our classrooms are too small for the number of students I have. I think many staff members have a problem with the overcrowded classes. I don't think management cares about it. It's always about the numbers and they don't give a damn about the quality. Now, let's focus on the codes now. We have read the paragraph. In your opinion, what kind of teaching and learning challenges do students in your classes experience? So, the learning challenges, the facilities are terrible at the institutions. They are very old and dilapidated toilet facilities for students which never get upgraded. I think the way these toilets look now is the way they are since this school was many years ago. I also don't think there are enough toilet facilities for students. There is only 2 urinals that work the last time I went into the student toilets. So, the facilities. I can code the first statement as a general code. I can highlight, drag and drop this into this blank space and call this, I'm going to voice type. Press the Windows button and the H button on your machine and you can voice type to inadequate facilities. That's my first code, and if I double click on the code, you can see the quote that I have included in this code, inadequate facilities. So let's double click. If we double click on the code, you can see the facilities are terrible at the institution. But I also want, remember I told you we use a kind of a color code to mark the codes. So I want to right click and add color red. Remember this one, if you look at my Word document, I said all the codes that are going to come from this question are going to mark them as red. Let me close the transcript so that you can see this is the color. So I'm coding all the codes that come from question number 1, whether it's from lecturer 1 or lecturer 2 or 3, I'm going to mark them as red. Just to mark them because I'm going to combine them later into themes. Let's go and have way more codes. So that's the initial coding. I think the way these toilets look when this college was a school, I also don't think there is enough toilet facilities. So I think the way these toilets look when this college was a school, I also don't think there is enough toilet facilities. So this person is talking about dilapidated toilet facilities, so inadequate facilities, but in more specific, I right click the whole paragraph and code this as insufficient toilet facilities for students. So I coded that whole section as insufficient toilet facilities for students. Don't forget, let's right click and go to code, mark that as red. I also think we have a huge problem with classroom facilities. It seems all classrooms are given to occupational unit or get rented to other private institutions. Not minding that the lecturers at the campus are struggling with space. In our classrooms are too small the number of students we have. I think staff members have a problem with overcrowded classes. Up to this point, I also want to talk about 2 codes: insufficient classroom facilities. Insufficient classroom facilities is also supported by this statement called overcrowded classes. So this statement I can drag and drop it inside the code so that you see the number of references changes to 2 because we've added 2 quotes to support that code. Let's go to question number 2 and let's keep coding. So all the codes for question number 1, as you can see, all of them I right click and label them as red. So that's a color code to give me an idea of where these codes came from so that when I start getting themes, I can be able to compare the codes and to come up with themes and provide descriptions. So let's code the second question. Students, what do you think those challenges experienced by students, what do you think causes their challenges? How do the students deal with their own challenges? So student challenges have been completely ignored for primary school, and parents would also ignore that there is a possible challenge or that children suffer due to the areas they live in. I'm not qualified to diagnose learning challenges, but most students come from areas with very little care to give to students. Students grow up in an area where there is an influx of gangsterism and drugs. What do you think those challenges experienced by students? What do you think causes their challenges? How do students deal with their own challenges? So I want to highlight this whole statement. Student challenges, students suffer due to areas they live in. Okay. I want to say unconducive environments. So students come from unconducive environments. Color code for this, remember the color code for this, just look at the script. It's green. So let's use green. Right click. Remember this from another question. So green. And then I'm not qualified to diagnose learning challenges, but most students come from areas with very little care to students. Students grow up in an area where there is influx of gangsterism and drugs. It's an unconducive environment also. Students growing up in areas with gangsters and drugs. So unconducive environments is, I drag and drop that quote under the same code that I have. So if I double click this code, you see the whole paragraph is included in unconducive environment. Let's keep coding for another question. What teaching strategies do you currently use for teaching these students? When students participate in class, it creates constructive learning. I think students like it when there is a constructive debate in class about work, so I try to create debates like that in class. So the teaching strategy this teacher uses is they allow students to discuss and debate in class. So allowing students to discuss and debate in class. So that's the teaching strategy this teacher uses. And then I right click again. Let's look at the color code for this. Look at my transcript, blue. So this is a shade of blue, and I think that shade of blue is light blue. So I go to color. This is light blue, and this blue and that blue are kind of the same. Probably I'll take dark blue, but let's use blue. And probably for the next color, I'm going to change it completely to a very contrasting color. Like, let me find a color for this. Maroon. I don't think we have maroon, do we? Yeah, we only have red. So let me use maroon for that. For now, I used the color blue, as you can see. So let's open the transcript again and let's keep coding. So we already coded here that debating, the teaching strategy they use is allowing students to discuss and debate in class. Then are these teaching strategies you use effective, or what challenges do you perhaps experience in teaching these students? I'm not a qualified educational psychologist to diagnose specific learning challenges, but for these students, I send them to the student support staff. I await the results, any appropriate intervention strategies, but never get a response from them. The college must send us training workshops instead of workshops that we know nothing about, that will never before use in any of our classroom situations. So, any teaching strategies, are these teaching strategies you use effective? What challenges do they experience? So, that's the save message. So, we click yes to save. So, the challenges they experience is not receiving timely response from the support staff to diagnose learning challenges among students. So that's a very long code. So you see sometimes my codes can be very long sentences. And I want to go to question number 4 and look at the color code for that. It's maroon. So I go to color. I think we only have red here. So let me just do brown. And let me just come back here and do brown. Okay. Brown is okay. So for that, the code is not receiving timely response from support staff to diagnose learning challenges among students. So that's the main challenge they have. Then not receiving sufficient training. Let me code this. Not receiving sufficient training from the school on how to handle teaching challenges. Not receiving sufficient training from the school on how to handle teaching challenges. You can see those are very interpretive codes. They are not obvious. I didn't get them obviously. So those are very interpretive codes. So what do you think is the most appropriate or effective ways to teach students? Every student has a different ability in the classroom. So pairing an academically strong student with others creates a tremendous amount of support, as there are times I'm unable to give every student individual attention. So the most appropriate way for them to teach students is pairing academically weak students with more stronger students to allow the students to help one another. You can see sometimes my code are very long and it's intentional. I can always go and revise the codes. Codes can be short, they can be long. Please don't worry about how long your codes are. Just worry about getting the right codes. I'm trying to find the color code for that. I think it's purple. So color purple. Yeah. That's another code. You can see for that transcript we have very many codes and all the codes are color coded. I know where they came from, okay? We can go to the other transcript and do some coding, and then we're going to revise the codes and get some themes. Now let's go to the other transcripts and let's start coding. Same question. In your opinion, what kind of teaching and learning challenges do students with learning challenges in your classes experience? I feel that the college is selfish in spending money at the institution. There's always something that breaks and then it takes maintenance a very long time to fix. For example, my aircon in my classroom has been broken for a long time and just never gets sorted out. The students struggle in the summer as the windows in my class cannot open. This class is very hot during summer. I don't think students can concentrate in all hot confined classroom with no ventilation. I can code this as no ventilation, but you remember we had a code called inadequate facilities. Drag and drop that statement into inductive facilities and you see the files become 2, the references become 2. So when we find another quote that supports an original code, we should drag and drop that quote inside there. Let's keep going. So inadequate facilities, and we can also code no ventilation, but that is included under inadequate facilities. Then question number 2, what do you think those challenges experienced by students, what do you think causes their challenges and how do students deal with their own challenges? So students have socioeconomic problems as lots of students come from poor backgrounds where parents cannot afford their children's studies. They don't have the necessary resources at home that could assist them, like the internet, computer, laptops, emotional or financial support from parents or guardians. Some of these students go sleep with an empty stomach. So socioeconomic, the whole of this can be socioeconomic challenges. Students experience socioeconomic challenges. Now, for question number 2, I want to remind you of the color code we had, light green. I want to go and for that code, right click, go to color and use green so that I can relate this code to the other code I got from interview number 1, if you remember that. So these two codes represent the same thing and we are going to do that right now to see how we are able to come up with themes. Let's keep coding. What teaching strategies do you currently use to teach these students? I encourage participation in class. I sometimes let students explain by writing notes on the whiteboard. Encouraging students to participate in class. So that's a code. And then let's go and look at question number 3. It's blue. So I go to that code, encouraging students. And right click, go to color. And this is blue. Let's keep going. Are these teaching strategies you use effective, or what challenges do you perhaps experience in teaching these students? Often students are late or absent from class and miss out on work and fall behind. Therefore, I often encourage collaborative teaching where these types of students are then able to use their peers to catch up on mixed work. So let's read this statement. I often use collaborative teaching where these types of students are then able to use their peers to catch up on missed work. You remember, there's a teacher who said they pair academically weak students with stronger students, so they allow them to collaborate. If I drag that and drop that inside that code, they mean the same thing. Okay, again, this was about challenges. They said that often students are late or absent from class. This one I want to say, students being late or absent from class, which makes them fall behind in their studies. You see that one is under question number 4, and question number 4 is brown in color. So I right click, I go to color, I use brown, and let's code the final segment. What do you think is the most appropriate or effective way of teaching students? I often encourage productive talk in classroom, and even when students use their home language to explain to one another, as they are better to relate and express themselves. However, one has to ask students to recall in the medium of instruction to determine the level of understanding, as students cannot always manage all their details. I encourage active learning strategies and teaching techniques that increase student engagement in daily lessons and on internet platforms. So the most effective ways of teaching according to this teacher is adopting active learning strategies. And let's go and look at the color code for that. It's purple. Right click and go to color and put purple. So I want to close the transcript and let's look at the codes. These are my initial codes. You have so many codes here. And that's how we generate initial codes in NVivo 15. Now let's go and right click in the code section, create another folder, call this preliminary themes. So here we are going to look at the pattern of shared meaning across the codes to form the themes. And remember, you can use even the Brown and Clark framework. We familiarize with the transcripts. We generate initial codes. Now we are generating themes, and then you revise or you refine the themes, and that's what we are doing. Now I'm going to click on the initial codes, select one of the codes, Control A, copy, then paste all the codes in this new folder. And now I start looking for a pattern of shared meaning across the codes to form themes. Remember, although we are doing inductive analysis, if you read the original questions that were being asked, you can know what we want to find out. In your opinion, what kind of teaching and learning challenges do students in your classes experience? So, learning challenges. If we see the color code red, it's about learning challenges. You see these red codes, I'm going to put them under one container. Let's create, or under one preliminary theme. So, I want to right click in the blank space, create a new code, and call this learning challenges that lecturers experience when teaching students. I want to call this theme 1 because now we start to move away from themes, and we'll keep revising these themes. And I want to say, where does add a description? This theme represents the different challenges that lecturers experience when teaching students in the classroom. Now, when we form preliminary themes, we have to add a clear description because this is about learning challenges that lecturers experience when teaching students. This is not the final themes, this is a preliminary theme. Now, click OK and drag all the codes that are red in color that came from that theme and drag and drop them under the theme, and then right click here, select aggregate coding from children to add everything up. So under the theme learning challenges, or under the preliminary theme learning challenges that lecturers experience when teaching students, we have 3 codes: inadequate facilities, insufficient classroom facilities, and insufficient toilet facilities for students. I think we can combine those codes later, but let's just keep getting themes. So let's repeat this so that you can understand what I'm doing. Let's go to another question and look at it. What do you think of those challenges experienced by students? What do you think causes their challenges? How do students deal with their own challenges? So that question is green. So these are specific challenges experienced by students. Then I write a description here. This theme represents the specific challenges experienced by students according to the interviewed lecturers. These are preliminary themes. I can always go and rename them, refine them, review them. So theme number 2, specific challenges. Again, I'm guided by my color code, which is green. So all codes that are green, drag and drop them under this theme. Then this is another one, drag and drop it here. Then right click and go to aggregate coding from children. So that's another theme. Let's keep forming preliminary themes. Let's look at another question. What teaching strategies do you currently use to teach these students? So we'll have a theme called teaching strategies that lecturers use to teach students currently. Then let's add a description. This theme represents the teaching strategies that the interviewed lecturers currently use to teach students. You can see my preliminary themes are quite descriptive because I intend to go and revise them, and I'll show you how to revise them. So that's blue. All codes that are blue, the color code is blue, allowing students to discuss. Remember, these color codes were to help me know the original place that these codes came from. I right click, I go to aggregate coding from children, and you can see. So teaching strategies, allowing students to discuss, debate in class, encouraging students to participate in class. You see, that's how we combine codes to form themes, and those are preliminary themes. So I can combine all of them. Let's look at the other. Are these teaching strategies you use effective? What challenges do you perhaps experience in teaching these students? That's like a repeated questions. But let's get that code. So what challenges do you perhaps experience teaching the students? I want to have that as a theme called challenges that lecturers experience while teaching students. Then I provide a description and say, this theme represents the challenges that the interviewed lecturers highlighted that they experienced frequently while teaching students in their current school. Click OK. That's a description. Remember, all themes must have a description. Then if you look at this transcript, you see the code is brown. So all codes that are brown in color, drag and drop them here. Then I grab them, drag and drop them here. Then I right click, I go to aggregate coding from children. And I think now we only have one more theme remaining, which is, what do you think is the most appropriate or effective ways of teaching such students? So right click in the blank space, create a new code. Effective ways of teaching students according to the lecturers. This theme describes the effective ways that the interviewed lecturers think would be ideal to teach the students in their current school setup. Click OK. Drag and drop these two codes. Of course, they are purple. If you look at the color code here, they are purple. I go and drag and drop them here. Right click, select aggregate coding from children. And that's how we get preliminary themes. Let's move to the final step of revising the themes further. Final themes. Remember, I may not be saying it explicitly, but you can see I'm following a step-by-step framework of doing thematic analysis. One of the frameworks you can follow to do thematic analysis is the Brown and Clark 6-step framework for thematic analysis. So, final themes. This is number. Right click, go to folder properties. This is C. Final themes. So let's go and get some final themes. We come and copy the initial themes. Now I will be concerned with how these themes sound. Are they the same? Do I need to combine themes? And we are going to paste them. So let's review and refine the themes more. Now let's look at the first theme. Learning challenges that lecturers experience when teaching students. So this one should not be learning challenges. I made a mistake here. It's challenges. So I edit this to challenges that lecturers experience when teaching students. So this theme represents the different challenges. Yeah, not learning, it's challenges. So that's how you refine the themes. You right click, you click on code properties and you edit. So you can see that's better. We keep revising the themes. Remember, I was allowed to make mistakes in the preliminary theme section, and now I revise my mistakes. So specific challenges experienced by students. Let's look at the description. Challenges experienced by students. You don't have to write the word specific. So that's another way to revise that. Then another thing we have to do here is to ensure we have standard spacing. Again, teaching strategies that lecturers currently use to teach students. I want to rename these to current teaching strategies, because the description already says they are teaching strategies that the interviewed lecturers use. So, current teaching strategies. That's the final theme. You can see I'm renaming, checking my themes, making them sound better, and revising. Then number 4, challenges that lecturers experience while teaching students. Challenges that lecturers experience while teaching students. You see challenges that lecturers experience when teaching students. Those two themes will become one, and this is a very good thing. Actually, I don't want to make any changes there, and I want to look at these challenges. This theme, you see theme 1, inadequate facilities, insufficient classrooms, then not receiving training, not receiving timely response, student being late or absent. All these challenges are different. We have resource challenges and other types of challenges. So for inadequate facilities, insufficient classroom facilities, and insufficient toilet facilities, they mean the same thing. So I can take these two codes, I right click, I cut them, then I merge them into the selected code, although we should have revised these codes many steps before, but I have still done it. You see all the codes, I put them under inadequate facilities because they relate to the same thing. Then I want to drag all these codes from this theme, because challenges that lecturers experience while teaching students, challenging that lecturers experience while teaching students. So I combine those into one single theme. Then I delete theme number 4. You can see how reviewing themes is. Theme number 5 will become theme number 4. That's how. We can't have duplication. We can't have a duplicate themes. Initially, preliminary themes, I had how many? 5. Final themes, I have 4. But let's revise the final themes. Effective ways of teaching students according to the lecturers. According to the lecturers. Effective ways of teaching students. is enough, because we are going to give a description. This theme describes effective ways that the interview lecturers think would be ideal to teach students. That's my final work. You can imagine. That's how we move from transcripts all the way to getting final themes like this. When we get final themes, what do? We can click on share, go to export codebook. I want to save my codebook in this folder and save the codebook. And the codebook I want to export is final themes only, and I want to include files and references, and click OK. And let's see what we have here. The final codebook. Look at that. Theme, description, codes. Theme, description, codes. Theme, description, codes. So this is the final work that we are able to do, to move from having raw transcripts to getting final themes in NVivo. So after this, it's just writing the findings report, which I'll cover in my next video. How do we write the findings report? In my next video, I'm going to use this NVivo file and move from the NVivo file into writing a findings report with some interesting visuals.
Remember, if you are feeling stuck with your data analysis chapter, don't stress. I'm here to help. I offer done-for-you qualitative data analysis services using NVivo. My done-for-you service includes coding, theme development, and visualization. On the other hand, if you prefer to learn and do the analysis yourself, I provide one-on-one consulting where I'll guide you step by step on how to master NVivo in performing qualitative data analysis. Reach out right now. Check the description below for my email and link to my website. Thank you.